Welcome once again to the Far Post Podcast, presented by Massachusetts 250, commemorating a history of possibility. Plan your revolutionary weekend at massachusetts250.org. But first, listen to the Far Post Podcast, presented by Massachusetts 250, because I'm your host, Jeff Lemieux. Are you doing? Where's the boo? The boo.
I don't know. You can see both my hands. I don't.
Oh, they are extra
me.
spicy today.
No one's even controlling the booze. I think that might be
spicy today.
Real booze today.
Yep. Well, you reap what you sow, Jeff.
One day we'll have to have a conversation about what I apparently sowed.
Well, you're a little arrogant and conceited. It's probably your tone of voice, probably.
That's fair.
Yeah.
If it's just my voice they're booing, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it probably is. Your face a little bit too.
Okay, fair. Well, we maybe took it a step too far there.
So,
that might have gotten a little
I
too
apologize
personal.
for nothing.
I'm here with Cathal Conlon.
Hello.
How's
Great
it
to
going?
see you, Jeff.
You, on the other hand, have
Me.
a lovely, lilting voice.
I've been practicing this lilt for years.
It's beautiful.
It's finally
yeah.
paying off.
You're in
Yep.
that perfect mid-range where everyone in the United States thinks you sound incredibly Irish and everyone
Yes.
in Ireland thinks you sound
Yeah,
incredibly
nice
American.
mid-Atlantic thing going. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's nice.
love
yeah.
it.
Yep.
We got Jason Dalrymple as well.
Hey, I think I like that we're recording in the afternoon this time, and I think this held true when we used to do the show back in the day too. We have a lot more pop
Yeah.
in the afternoon than 10 o'clock in the morning.
I felt it in the booze. The booze
Yeah,
felt like
yeah.
it had a little bit
Telling
more
you.
pop.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
Well, I'm really excited for today's show, if you can't tell, because we are taking a deep dive into, I think, unquestionably one of the most polarizing topics in Major League Soccer's 30-year history, the old school style MLS shootout. And we have two absolutely perfect guests to speak on this topic. We're going to get to that in one moment, but really quickly first, wanted to just sort of set the stage by getting your thoughts, guys, on the old school style MLS shootouts. Cathal, I'll start with you just because you come from a European background where this is relatively unconventional. For those who don't know, in Major League Soccer from 1996 to 2000, there were no draws in the league, games that finished tied after 90 minutes. And I mean 90 minutes because the clock counted down from 45 in the early days of MLS. Went to a shootout in which players did not take penalties. They started 35 yards from goal, dribbled towards goal, towards a goalkeeper who was charging off the line, and had 5 seconds to get the shot off before scoring. So Cathal, to the traditional European who grew up supporting Liverpool,
Yeah.
how did you feel about the old school style?
As a
shootout?
recovering soccer snob, I've oscillated in this thing frequently. I started from a position of this is terrible and stupid and why would we do this, to now being actually sort of into it. I don't know if I would go back to we don't have any ties, but when we do need penalty shootouts, let's go back to old school. Let's do it. I'm a big fan.
How do you feel, Jason?
I remember, back when they were first a thing. Like I was more of a baseball and a basketball player, but watching MLS come in, and I'm like, they don't. This isn't like a usual thing, right? Like this hockey style, penalty kick. And back then I was like, all right, cool. But even now, I agree with Cathal. It would be kind of cool to just, even if they did it, I know they did it at All-Star a couple of years ago, and but if they could somehow bring it back so that you could get it in there, it's wildly entertaining.
It would really aggravate a bunch of people too, which I think is a good reason to do it.
I was 11 when the league started, and I vividly remember even being a diehard Revolution fan as a kid, sometimes kind of hoping the games finished tied after 90 minutes, because then you got to watch the shootout and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I guess that if that's what they were trying to do, is sort of bring in a new American fan, which I think was the idea at the time, was sort of trying to appeal to an American sports fan who hadn't typically watched the game of soccer. It wasn't the worst way to maybe connect people to the game a little bit and give it a little bit of, kind of extra excitement in the early years of the league. I get why they eventually moved away from it.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, there's such an emphasis now, correctly, on making sure that MLS games look the same as Premier League games, look the same as Champions League games, and so on and so forth. But I don't know. I'm kind of into it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think if you did it every week, you'd probably maybe eventually get sick of it again.
Yeah.
But because right now, especially because of the novelty, I would like to see it in some capacity.
Yeah, we should figure out a way to do it. Maybe in Leagues Cup or something like that, or Open Cup, or yeah.
Why not?
Let's find a way to do it.
In Next Pro right now, they do penalty shootouts at the end of every tie. Why not just make it the old school style 35-yard shootout?
Yes.
Let's get it somewhere in the league. It's a throwback to 96.
I'm into it.
Well, look, our insight into this topic, no matter
It's
what we
largely
say,
irrelevant.
it's going to pale in comparison to today's guests,
It's largely irrelevant.
who have a vast amount of experience in old school style MLS shootouts. Today, joining the Far Post podcast, we have both Darren Sawatzky and Jeff Causey. Guys, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. I know I'm going to have to go back and forth. I don't want to just throw out questions to both of you and then you end up talking over each other. So I know I'll have to go back and forth. But Darren, we'll start with you. How are you doing? And thanks for joining the show.
Well, I'm doing all right. I really appreciate being on here. It's good to see Causey. He's a good friend, and we go way back. And I'll get it out right now. It was really great to score that goal on our opener in the shootout against you. So I'm really happy that happened. And I'll tell you guys, I'm a Liverpool fan also. I have been all the way back to the 80s. I'm a heavy metal football and Klopp. I'm all about it, and I think that kind of goes together with the shootout. You know, we like winners in America, and I think that was the whole point, right? You wanted winners. It brings people in, and even to this day, I'm still like trying to explain to general soccer public what the Club World Cup is and all this stuff. People still don't completely get it, right? There's just so many sports and opportunities here. So I will tell you right now, I'm a big fan of the shootout. I think it has a place in American soccer.
Well, I'm glad the two of you were still friends after what happened on April 27th, 1996, when we'll just get it out of the way now and say the reason we have Darren and Jeff on together is because in the Revs' first ever home game at the old Foxborough Stadium, April 27th, 1996, Darren was playing for the Revs. Jeff, an eventual Revolution goalkeeper, was playing for DC United on that day, and Darren did score the goal against Jeff that clinched the win for the Revs in their first ever home game. We'll talk about all that a little bit later, but I'm glad the two of you have been able to maintain a friendship over the years. Jeff, now that you've gotten that intro to let everybody know exactly why now there's other reasons why you're on the show today, and we'll get into all that too, but thank you for joining us, and how are you doing?
I was better before this before this call. I was doing well, but after this, I'm not sure.
You're having a nice little Wednesday, and we decided to ruin it for you?
Pretty much. No, I'm excited to be here. It's good to kind of drum up some old cloudy memories of those old days. But I agree with Darren. I would love to see the shootout make a comeback. It was just so more of the game of soccer, of football, and it gave keepers now a lot better opportunity to make a save, to make a play than just a standard PKs.
Let's start the movement. Let's do it.
I feel like I've seen some like old school European players who saw the old school MLS shootout and say, you know what, comparing this to a penalty shootout the way that we do it now, this might actually be sort of a better representation of the game of soccer in terms of that one movement of giving an attacking player a chance to actually attack, giving the goalkeeper a chance to do a little bit something more than maybe guess a direction.
The point's a good one on the goalkeeper with the run-ups you can do now and the stopping.
Yeah,
it's almost impossible for a keeper now.
Yeah, guys are going backwards on penalties. We kind of got to get
we got to get that under control.
I'll note too, for people who are watching on YouTube and have visuals, Darren, I know that the main has probably been long gone, but for Revolution fans who are familiar from like 96, 97, they might be devastated that the Tarzan main is gone.
Well, I'll tell you, I have 5 kids. I have 5 grandkids. My youngest son is 22, and he had the same exact hair up until about 6 months ago. He's a pro skateboarder, and he's still got half of it. So I had to kind of retire it so that he would listen to me, and he's carrying on the tradition.
Like as a pro skateboarder, it's an incredibly fitting haircut. That fits that for sure.
I don't want Jeff's hair to go overlooked over your shoulder, though.
Oh, I thought you were talking about my hair for a second.
No, I mean, that like my 12-year-old son and all his teammates, that's their haircut now. Like we've come full circle on this thing.
Yeah, Jeff, do you
That's
think...
what I was aiming for. The future 12-year-old.
Trendsetter.
Well ahead of my time.
Yeah, back in 96, 97, Jeff was saying, you know what? If I can look like a 12-year-old in 2025, that's what we're going for. Well, real quick, too, I want to let fans know just sort of what the two of you are up to now. Darren, you're rocking. I know you've got the Richmond Kickers logo on your shirt right now. Let fans know what you're up to at the moment.
I also got the old school with me today.
There we go.
Nice.
Just get a shout out. The real logo, not that thing you got on right now.
Oh, whoa.
You got the guy on the room, the Brit.
I'm a traditional.
I think the sound's gone again. I think we lost the audio again. Feed's down.
Oh man. No, I don't. Listen. I'm lucky and grateful. It's kind of crazy, the full circle. I know you guys had Robbie Ukrop on your podcast also. I played professionally for a long time, so, similar to Jeff. I think he won more championships as a player than I did, for sure. But I bounced around. I went back to Seattle, started the academy there with the Sounders and MLS, and became a head coach a decade ago. And the Richmond Kickers has been around for 32 years. Rob Ukrop became an owner with some friends, and said, look, we gotta kind of bring this into the modern era. Would you be willing to come out to Richmond? Long story short, I came out here. I've been here since 2020. I got here about a month before COVID hit, and we won a championship 2 years later. Jeff's son Austin was part of that, and we since then we've dove into the youth thing. Man, we have 11 teenagers on our pro team right now. We're full on in the homegrown thing and kind of working to evolve a game in a city that's trying to stay in 1980. Let me tell you.
Fantastic. Well, Jeff, unfortunately, several of us in the room because you have stayed involved with the New England Revolution organization. Just for fans who maybe don't know, what have you sort of been up to since conceding that goal to Darren in 1996?
Besides that, no, I went the different route. I coached for a few years, and then I always say I grew up. I had to put on I changed my sweatsuit for a business suit and got in the world of finance. Been doing that for 20 to 23 years now since I retired from the Rev. So I've been living my life through my boys. They both play soccer, like you said. Austin's professionally playing for New York, New Jersey, the Red Bull Twos. My youngest is 20, getting ready to go off to college to play soccer. So I coach here with the Revolution in the academy system, a goalkeeper coach. So I keep my feet involved or my hands involved with coaching youth players, and like Darren, helping the youngsters get up and give themselves an opportunity to do what Darren and I did for so many years.
And for Revs fans who are thinking, why do I recognize that voice? Because Jeff had a very memorable 2-year stint as the color commentator on New England Revolution broadcast alongside Brad Feldman. We miss you.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I remember the first few early games of being completely lost, but just loved it, being able to reconnect with old teammates, friends, see all the new stadiums, and just, it's been 10, 12 years since I did that, and just see the league has literally doubled in that time period. So it's awesome to see the expansion in the I guess the stability of the league compared to those early days of, we didn't know, one, if the season was going to end, or two, if there was going to be another season. Every winter break, it was a little fearful for our jobs.
Well, let's really start to dive into this shootout here, because we've kind of just started to scratch the surface. And both of you have said that, looking back now, at least, you love the old school style MLS shootout. I'm wondering how you felt about it in 1996 when you first heard about it. Darren, I'll start with you. Do you remember at all when you first heard about the fact that MLS was going to use this shootout? They were going to, one, not have draws, and that two, they were going to decide it with this unique style shootout, and sort of how you felt about it in the moment?
I think, Jeff, I think you had some experience with this too, but even the couple years before, when we were playing in these USISL leagues and working towards it, we had these stampede shootouts where you would start at the center circle, just inside the center circle, and the whole rest of the other 19 guys could chase you down. And I think when I got to the Revolution, it was chaos, man. And I'll just tell you, because you knew even if you were going to score, you were going to get absolutely clobbered. And I did. And I was a fast player. I wasn't the best player, but I was really fast. So Darren, get on the line, because at least you can get there before you get a shot off before somebody hammers you. When we got to MLS and they said, hey, you're going to do this, I'd probably taken 20 of them in the stampede. So I'm like, oh yeah, no problem, I can take them. I think my percentage of making those was about 20%, because you had 5 seconds to get there, and if you didn't get the shot off, then it didn't count. And if the goalkeepers were good, man, you had to be good to get it in there.
Man,
but you had nobody chasing you.
Yeah, but
Like USISL days.
it's like PTSD, though. I could just hear it in the background. It's like they're coming for you. They're coming for you.
We need some footage. I've never even heard of that, let alone seen
amazing.
footage
That's
of
amazing.
those Stampede-style shootouts. That sounds incredible. I don't know if we're ever going to get that in Major League Soccer. Maybe we can find a nice compromise and get the MLS-style shootout back. But yeah, I'd imagine if you dealt with that for a while, the MLS-style shootout probably seemed like a cakewalk.
Well, I sure set myself up for that, didn't I? I don't know about a cakewalk, and I'll take the first one. I was lucky enough to get it past Jeff, but I missed many of them also. It was difficult, and the goalkeepers got better and better. And to Jeff's point, it really showcased how good the goalkeepers were. I mean, some of the goalkeepers had some crazy antics. And again, you had that shot clock. They would wheel out this old clunky 1985 trailer that, the original commissioner spray painted himself to make sure that it was ready to go. And the funniest part ever about that, just so you know, I remember leaving one of the stadiums. I can't remember. It was a few years later. And for whatever reason, I'm walking. I think it was RFK, to be honest, if I remember right. And I'm walking through the dusty part of the old stadium, and you could see it back in the corner because it was no longer in use. It was like back. He's gone to pasture. Really funny.
We need to get one of those things in like the U.S. Soccer, the National Soccer Hall of Fame or something. That would be a draw. Wow, Jeff. How about you from the goalkeeper perspective? Obviously you'd at that point, I'm sure, faced many, many penalties throughout the course of your career. But what was your reaction? What was your thought process when you heard about this style of shootout?
I was same as Darren. I played for Richmond back in 1995 before that, and it was it's funny because the end of the games weren't shootouts. The middle of the game was that Stampede shootout. It was almost like in basketball, when you have 5 fouls, you get a foul shot. So after six fouls in the defensive end or the offensive end for the other team, they literally had a fast break shootout. So we were used to that because in the Open Cup that year we went to PKs. Richmond won the Open Cup in '95 in PKs. So it had both styles going on during that time. But that was when the league was experimenting. There was bigger goals, kick-ins versus throw-ins. Depending on which region of the country that you were in, right. There was different type of things to try to increase goals after the World Cup. But no, in '96, I was excited for it because that was something that became almost a daily practice, right? Because we every team had a ton of shootouts, especially early on, and that was something that each week we probably do it 3 times a week. At the end of practice, just go through the cycle. But for me as a goalkeeper, there was so many different, whether you played on turf, whether you played on short grass, whether you played on, Gillette's or Foxborough's thick grass, right? That thing was like 3 inches long. That's a whole different strategy to deal with as a shooter and a goalkeeper trying to stop that. It made you think. It made you think about your strategies.
For you as a goalkeeper, was the strategy more based on the surface, like you mentioned, as opposed to the actual shooter? Like, did you actually have any knowledge, maybe 3 years into the shootout or so? Did you start to get any knowledge of what specific guys might do the way goalkeepers now might go out with their little paper and know which way every penalty shooter is going to go? Were you able to study in that way?
Well, the early days, we didn't have 30 teams to deal with. We had 9 other teams, 10 teams total. So it wasn't that hard to have a memory, especially when we played every team 3 or 4 times a year. So, yes, by year 2, year 3, I'd seen pretty much everybody that we needed to see, and you'd have an idea. But, again, it depends on the surface. Whether if they did a big first touch, I might come flying out. If they kept it close, maybe I would stay close to my goal because that 5 seconds put a lot of pressure, and 35 yards is longer than you think. So the easier it was, I made it for him. It was harder to go. But then there's pressure of playoffs and getting in there where it's do or die. So yeah, good crowds, 3,000 in a midweek at Kansas City, bad crowd. There was a lot of different stuff going on.
Darren, did you develop a strategy early that you kind of stuck with as a shooter, or did you switch up the strategy? Was it a feel in the moment? Like, how did you sort of approach those mentally?
For me, I always had this piece where I would pull the goalkeeper to their right, my left, and I would try to bend it back around him. I think that's how I got Jeff on that first one. So I got lucky, so I needed to keep working on it. But the truthfully, they would figure you out. I tried a couple of different strategies. The veteran guys would say flip the ball up in the air, right? And then the goalkeeper would stay, you take a touch, but it wouldn't be enough time. I think the one that most people did, and I started to try to do it, was take a little bit of a heavier touch, because if you were fast enough and you could get there, then the goalkeeper kind of got stuck in no man's land. But listen, I always tried to bend it around to the goalkeeper's left, and I think more were saved than I made. So I still got to work on this thing.
And to Jeff's point about the clock, too, I mean, you had to get the shot off in 5 seconds. So basically, if a keeper forced you wide enough, there was no way you were going to get the shot off in time. So did you, at a certain point, was it almost just too risky to try to round a goalkeeper because you knew there's a pretty good chance you're not getting that shot off?
I'd be honest with you, I never even thought about rounding a goalkeeper. I always thought about beating him with a shot. The guys that tried to get around or dribble a goalkeeper usually didn't get the shot off. And then, if a goalkeeper stalled the guy and slowed him down for a second, you're already gone, oh man, because even if he gets the shot off, they're going to be like, and the little buzzer will go off on you.
Jeff, was there any particular type of shot that you didn't like facing? Like, was there something that a shooter would do that'd be like, you know what, that's actually probably the most difficult thing for me to stop? We're long enough past now, it's probably not going to affect you anymore.
Right. There was two guys. So basically Darren and Alan, was it Prampton? Just fast as lightning guy from Dallas, I think. And if they were on turf or short grass, it was tough because, like you said, they take that first touch. And as a goalkeeper, I'm begging them to take a second touch, because as soon as they took that second touch, I'd be on them in a heartbeat. But if they take that first good touch and they're there early enough that now, like you said, I'm in the middle of no man's land, so I can get chipped or get slotted, or on turf, you could still, with speed, you could still dribble a keeper. But it was, Jeff Agus that played with me at DC. He used to be the king of, he would flick it up and literally do maybe 2 juggles. And if the keeper came out, he'd just chip it over him. If the keeper didn't come out, he would just crush it from inside the 18, and it would dip back down. So there were those strategies for them, but the more I could keep somebody's head down and try to get a good angle and get out there quick, the better. And usually I had success with getting out there, making them take that first big touch, and then as soon as they put their head down, I'd take another couple of quick steps to get out there pretty fast.
I feel like we see the highlights now. Like there's if people have never seen this, check out YouTube. Major League Soccer has posted a bunch of videos. Just search old school style MLS shootout. There's a bunch of videos out there, but I feel like the clips they use are obviously very hand-picked, selected clips. I'm wondering how often, Jeff, you mentioned if a guy took a second touch, like I'm trying to charge out there and get on top of that ball as quick as I can. How often was there actually collisions? Like, how big was the risk of potential injury here as guys were kind of flying at each other?
A lot. I think that's probably why they did away with them, is just the possibility of mass collisions of, I think of like a big goalkeeper like Zach Thornton that was at Chicago, just a beast of a size of a goalkeeper and super fast, right? So there would be times where you'd have somebody coming down, their head was down, and a goalkeeper was coming out wild. There'd be and that's probably why fans loved it, right? They love that collision of that 50-50 type of save.
I want to know how often there was, controversy as to whether or not the shooter got the shot off or not. Like
every
time.
The forward would be having their hand up, keeper would have their hand up, screaming at the referee. No different than today. It's VAR, PK, no PK. But no instant replay back then.
Can you imagine?
So in that moment, it was just the one referee deciding whether the shot had gotten off, right?
I think they had the linesmen like PKs.
Okay.
Now they have them in the end line as well, because they were always yelling at keepers to get off to the sides. We couldn't be out there. But I can imagine the Argentine keeper now, Martinez, trying to do a old school shootout with trash talking and stuff.
Yeah, and Jeff, you've mentioned too the different style of fields, and when we reference back in 1996, and you talk about an artificial surface at the old Meadowlands, where at the time the Metro Stars played, now the New York Red Bulls. I mean, that was that was concrete with a carpet on top of it. I mean, it was a different type of surface. So, like, Darren, did you ever take a shootout attempt at the old Meadowlands with that surface? And how different was that as a challenge?
Well, I played on that. I have taken them on turf, but then I didn't in the Meadowlands. But I did play on that. The Big Tuna put it down right before we got there because he didn't want that grass stuff down for the football team. But I preferred turf for sure. You know, to be honest with you, Foxborough was the hardest for me because the ball held up in the thick grass. I would always take a heavy touch out in front because it would get caught up in your feet. You know, you alluded to the old school guys that smash, and I use the analogy of the modern NBA and the argument between LeBron and Jordan and all these kinds of things. Dude, I was a tinker toy, man. I was like skinny like this. I got absolutely smashed by these big guys, and they just be like, get up and wipe it off, right? Nowadays, these guys, you go boo, and they go, you hurt my feelings, and they're out for 3 games. It's just a different world now, man. I think Jeff's right. I think they did away with those, you know, the stampede kicks because guys couldn't handle it.
Was that part of the idea behind the Tarzan mane? Because it made you look like a wild guy who could dish it out too.
I really appreciate that you believe that about me. I would say I was a little guy who carried a big stick, but there were sure people in that league at that time that could sure, you know, put me in my place.
I remember the wristband too. You were early wristband or tape. Yeah, see.
Oh man, it's style. Man, I was on the forefront of branding. Come on, guys.
He was flair.
You see that quite a bit now, for sure. Are there any particularly memorable shootouts that you remember? Jeff, I'll start with you. Like, is there a specific shootout attempt or one specific shootout against a particular team that stands out to you in any sort of particular memory?
Oh God, there's so many. I think the biggest one that DC the first year going into the playoffs, playing the Metro Stars in New York. I think it was game 2, and it went to a shootout, and it went through all shooters. So New York, Tony Miola was there for New York, and he went like, I don't know if he went earlier, maybe he shot 8 or 9, and I saved it, came off my hip. But then I was shooter number 11 for DC, and I chipped them, and it just bounced, trickled wide. So it started over, and they scored on me. Vermees came up and took a second one and scored on me to win it in the playoffs. So that hurt the most. But I got a red card in Miami. You know, just came in, literally somebody fast tried to dribble by me and basically fell over me, and they gave me a red card. So I got subbed in for the shootout. I think I took two kicks, got a red card, and got pulled out. And Joe Max Moore went in, right? That was for the Revs. Joe Max Moore got subbed in for that. So, yeah, 2 memorable ones right there.
There can't be too many people that got sent off in a shootout. That's got to be a short list.
No, there's more than you think because just that. You come out with speed, and you're trying to make yourselves big, and if somebody got, you know, just kind of nicked the ball right by you, your momentum usually would get them. And again, after a while, the skilled players would do what they did. They try to dive or, you know, nick by you a little bit and drag their feet or something. So it's not as surprising as you would think.
And they would give a regular penalty in that moment, right? Like if a guy tried to round you and you fouled him, they'd give a standard 12-yard penalty.
Correct. Yeah.
Interesting. And Jeff, when you took that shootout attempt, like, had you thought beforehand, like, if I ever get a shootout attempt, what I'm gonna do, or did you sort of just in the moment, or like, let me just let the instincts take over?
All right, you got to think about this. Every keeper dreamed of taking a PK. Right? Keeper has a hidden forward mentality for sure. So we would think around and practice that. I wouldn't practice it as much as everybody else, but on turf, I followed suit of some of the guys that had success and just kind of, you know, dribble, drew them out and just did a little dink and just a little off target. It worked, though. It worked perfect. It just a little off target.
Well, Darren, we're obviously going to talk about that first ever shootout in Revs history in which you scored to win the first ever home game. But beyond that one, do you have any other shootouts that stand out in your mind? Was there a particular attempt that you remember?
I have a couple, and they're a little off topic. I mean, the first one that
that's what we do on this show. We're off topic all over.
Sure, we do our best work.
I appreciate that I'm getting credit for this, but like I said, I was probably at 20%, and I took them all the time. This story, people probably don't know this one, but Stapleton would tell us, like, we were out there. I just remember this practice. We would practice in the same as what Jeff said in DC. We would do them 3 days a week. We would practice them all the time. And back then, we would train at Babson or Brandeis or we were vagabonds. We would train in different places, so we would try these different places. And I remember we were on the back field at Babson because we were exhausted. Stapleton would train us for like 2.5 hours and just kill us, right? And we're out there, and he goes, "Okay, we're going to do the shootouts." And he was hard. He'd do them too. The guy taped his ankles and trained in every training session with us. Well, we had this guy on our team named Welton. And Welton played the rest of he played in other places. I think he won a championship in LA. But this little Brazilian kid never talked, never did anything, only spoke Portuguese. He never missed, man. So he did this thing. Stapleton goes, "We're not leaving until the goalkeepers, make the saves and somebody misses, right?" So it started, it was kind of like a thing where I went, I made one, I got to go again, right? Well, as soon as you missed, you were out. We literally stayed out there for an hour and a half after everybody else. The kid wouldn't miss. He did not miss from the half. It was amazing. I don't know what Welton's percentage is in the actual league, but I would argue that he was as good at those as anybody that ever took him. He never missed. It was crazy.
I'd say Rob Ukrop had some good Welton stories too. Definitely a cult figure in New England Revolution history. Man, I love the old school style MLS shootout. And Jeff, you eventually obviously became a New England Revolution goalkeeper, and the shootout became a significant part of your portfolio as a Revolution goalkeeper, because for quite a while, when Walter Zenga was not only the goalkeeper but the head coach, he would start games and then he would sub himself off in the 90th minute, put you on specifically just to play in the shootout. How did you feel about that role, being a shootout specialist?
It was, I got paid money like the closers do now in baseball. I got paid big money to come out and play 4 seconds. But no, it was nerve wracking because you never knew. It could go and with Walter, he could pull himself in the 60th minute, halftime, the 89th minute. It always depended. So you were always on call, but probably around minute 75, I was like, all right, this is getting down. It's 1-1, 2-2, whatever it is. Let me get ready. All right, it's the 85th minute. Now I really got to get ready and stand by the sidelines ready to go, because it could happen at any time. But it was hard coming in cold, but it also had a lot of energy, because you didn't have to have I didn't need to hold the ball. I just needed to block it or make somebody go past 5 seconds. So it was the tough part was, if you lost, that L went on your record. That was the hard part.
I was gonna ask, did Zenga ever explain why he didn't want to play in the shootout? But maybe that was the reason. He just didn't want the L next to him.
Definitely the reason, right?
You think, did he ever actually say, "Look, I just don't think I would be as good at this"? Did he ever explain it, or was just like, "Look, you're coming in for the shootouts"?
I think it was one of those where, that late in the game and whether he was obviously getting up in age a little bit more in comparison. So it's just, maybe I was a little bit more faster off the line, bigger, spread, whatever it might be to do that. But I remember he would take a few and then be like, "Nah, I'm not going to get hit, in the chest from 3 yards away. No, I'll let the young kid go do that."
Walter Zenga remains, at least in my mind, just a mythical figure. The fact that he is actually going to be at alumni night on August 9th blows my mind, because in my head, he's almost just this mythical figure who doesn't actually exist as a human being. I mean, was he like that as a teammate and a coach too? Was he legitimately sort of that enigmatic mythical figure?
I think playing, obviously growing up, or as a college player, young pro, seeing him in Italy, World Cup, it was just crazy. And then all of a sudden, I came into New England because he was hurt. I, kind of came up into New England for that. And then to have him come back and be coach as well. I could have started at left back that year, because I played more in the field. We didn't train much in goal. because, again, he's preserving his body. He didn't want to train as much. He's focusing on coaching. So there wasn't that much keeper training going on back in the day. So I played a lot in the field. But it was good just because he was, again, just this crazy figure that those antics on the field were definitely him off the field. So there's a lot of stories that will not make it on this podcast that are out there that I'm sure a lot of people could tell.
I say, well, we'll just have to have a conversation after we actually shut the recording off. We can get some of the really, really juicy stories, including when we had Rob on, and Darren, I don't know if you had a chance to go back and watch Rob's interview on the podcast, but he did bring you up a couple of times.
Yeah.
And Cathal, you wanted to make sure that we had a chance to ask about a photo shoot, I think, that Rob mentioned.
Yeah, he made a reference to a photo shoot on a mountaintop with some strange dude with a camera. Ring any bells?
Well, there are things I'm going to talk about and things I'm not. I'll tell you this. Mr. Ukrop, we did this fashion show. I don't know if he talked about the fashion.
He did, yeah.
Rob Ukrop was one of those people who was always ahead on technology. So this guy, my buddy, my roommate, he went everywhere with this video camera, everywhere. So he says to me and my wife when we get here, he's like, "Oh, I still got the tapes from this show," and I'm like, "Yeah, probably not good for the wives. Probably not the best thing to be having out there." But I'll tell you what, in the early parts of that league, we had a lot of fun. I think about some of the things that happened and the different people we could bring up on things like this. And thank goodness these smartphones weren't smartphones back in the day, because the world would, I think we would have had a different experience.
I think Rob said the exact same thing about the smartphones.
He did. He said that he thinks he has videos that he's never actually gone back and watched. So he's not sure what's actually even on the tapes. And I was like, you got to have one of those, at the end of the Hangover moments where everybody gets together and they're like, we're going to look at these photos or this video from this crazy night out one time, just so we know what's on here, and then we destroy it and we never talk about it again. So I think you might have to just have that one moment where you're like, what's on here? And then we wipe it from the memory. But and then we'll get together and we'll talk about it all on the podcast.
Talk about it at treatment. I'll tell you what. I'll say one thing about it. One thing, it's the league is a lot bigger, and all the other opportunities, and I'm involved in one of those opportunities. There's just so many opportunities for professional soccer in this country now, and these young players are just so lucky. I hope they're grateful on the path that was paved. But one thing I would say is, back in those days in particular, I know it happens some now, but back then you had friends. I mean, there were 10 teams. Then there were 12 teams, then there were 10 teams, and you had friends on all of these teams. You knew everybody. And so when the game was over, after the piss and vinegar was done, we all went out and hung out, right? And we're friends, and we know about each other, and we know about our families. And yeah, I met this girl. Well, I'm married to her now, and I have 2 kids, and it's 20 years later. It's that was one really cool thing that I didn't really understand at the time, but I look at it now, man, and I know most of the guys that played in the league back then, and everybody's pretty cool about it.
Yeah, and before we let you go, I do want to talk obviously briefly about that actual shootout on April 27th, 1996.
Jeff's been waiting for this part of the show the whole time.
We show that clip all the time. That's a clip that it plays. Darren, you probably don't know this. That clip of you scoring that goal and celebrating plays in the pregame pump video at Gillette Stadium before every New England Revolution match here as part of the 30th anniversary. So you're running across the field with the high knees pumping with the mane flowing in the back every pregame at Gillette Stadium. Did you mention everybody kind of knew each other? Did you two know each other at that point? Obviously, you became teammates and friends eventually, but in April '96, did you two know each other at all?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a crossover to Combine or something. I'm not in general, not like this. Not, not like we could call each other and go have a beer or have a coffee or something. It wasn't like that then. I mean, again, no cell phones, college soccer, I was on the West Coast, he was on the East Coast. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know if we knew each other at all. I don't think so. I think that was later.
I don't think Jeff wanted to know you after that game. Probably.
Man, you're killing him. You're killing him.
I've known Jeff for a long time. And I get crushed enough on the podcast. I just needed a different scapegoat. I needed someone to beat on, so I don't get beat on. It's projecting, Jeff. That's all I'm doing. But Darren, for you, I mean, that is a goal, and we talked about a similar thing with Rob when we had him on the podcast, because he scored the first 2 goals in Revolution history. And it's that situation where, like, yeah, you can be the all-time leading goal scorer. You can be the all-time leading assist man, all-time leader in appearances. Those records can eventually be passed and usually will eventually be passed by someone. But Rob's name will forever be in the Revolution record books because he will forever have scored the first goals in Revolution history. You will forever have scored that goal in the shootout that won the Revs their first ever home game. So what was it like for you to score a goal? You probably didn't know in the moment how historically significant that goal was going to be. But what was it like scoring the winning goal on an occasion like that when there really was all this buzz around a new team and a new league?
I have 2 answers. I'm going to answer the one about the shootout, and I'll be gentle. And then the second one was July 20th, that same year when DC came to play and we were on national TV. So I just, listen, you gave me goosebumps thinking about it. I was a no-name kid from Federal Way, Washington, and since then there's been a bunch of guys from Federal Way that have made it in MLS. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of a harder part of town, deep South Seattle, and I played for Clyde Charles at the University of Portland. He was instrumental in helping me get into MLS, and to get there and have that opportunity, man, I'm so grateful and humble that I got that opportunity, and I was lucky enough to finish that thing to win a game. I would tell you that, further on in the summer, we were playing DC and we really needed a win. I mean, we were struggling. DC was a top team. They were getting ready to make that run to the final, and we played on a nationally televised game on ESPN, and that was rare back then. There weren't nationally televised games, and I scored 2 goals, and we won the game. I had a mishap where I tried a bicycle kick that was ill-advised, and I accidentally kicked Mario Gori in the head and almost killed him, and Jeff Haggis almost killed me, and there were all these things that happened. But I would tell you that I didn't even really realize I was just playing soccer and chasing my dream. I think every person on the planet that knew me as a friend or as a person actually watched the game on TV. I had more phone calls and things. And the reason I bring that up was I'm really humble and grateful that I had that opportunity, because you're up to that point. We didn't get that kind of recognition. I mean, it was just so cool to have that opportunity and to see what it is now. I can turn on the TV and watch a multitude of soccer games in MLS, in USL, all over the world. We're all really lucky now what it's become.
Man, as a fan of early years MLS too, I'm thinking about you, Jeff Agus, Mario Gori, the hair in that trio, absolutely incredible. Could have been an 80s hair metal band, the 3 of you together.
Let's go.
Well, Jeff too, we mentioned, I mean, as much grief as we obviously jokingly gave you in with regards to that first MLS shootout, we talked about this a few days ago when we had you out to do an interview for a different feature. You did have the last laugh that season because you came back to Foxborough Stadium in October 1996 and got to lift the MLS Cup trophy. So I feel like we need to acknowledge that a few months later you were back here in Foxborough lifting a trophy. So perhaps the last laugh in that moment.
Yeah, I'll take that one. There was a lot of goals scored on me during the course of my professional career. I mean, the biggest one for me, playing in the first game ever, and we talked about it the other day, DC had 5 openers, counting their own, but 4 openers, and New England was that 4th. So being part of, the first game ever in San Jose, and that just crazy game on TV, late goal like that by Wijnaldum, and then we go to LA and then Columbus, and we got hammered in Columbus, and then go tight one in LA, but flying cross country and then come in New England. It was really cool to be part of all of those openers because everybody was so excited. The teams were putting all their marketing, media, cheerleaders for God's sakes out in some of the stadiums, right? So it was cool to be in those atmospheres. Even though everybody hated you, right, for being the opposing team, but it was just cool to be in the general atmosphere overall, and it was to be kind of that early pioneer. Like Darren said, it's I'm hoping that in my son's still playing through it, and my other son's coming through it, so I know still being part of the Young Youth Academy, and Darren sees it every day as well. I feel proud for being the early pioneers, but hope that there's an appreciation for those tough years of, again, 3,000 people in Kansas City on a Wednesday night in the middle of summer, or Dallas with, 2,000 people in the 100-degree heat, or not knowing if you were going to have a season in the spring when you came back. It was early on a lot of fear, but it makes me proud to be kind of part of that and see how big and stable it's gotten.
And we talk about those moments that built that early fan base in 1996, 1997, and we have that visual of Darren scoring that goal and running with the high knees across the field, celebrating with his teammates in the corner, winning the Revs their first ever home game. And regardless of how you feel about the old school style MLS shootout, and Jeff, this is something we also talked about the other day, without that shootout, we don't have that memory. We don't have that visual. The fans in Foxborough don't have that moment to celebrate. If that's a 1-1 draw and the fans go home after the Revs' first ever home game and it's a 1-1 draw, the feeling isn't the same as a young kid in those stands thinking we just got to watch the team win in this really exciting golden goal moment in a shootout. Those moments potentially ended up being really significant for a lot of particularly young fans in those moments. So, Jeff and I talked about this, but Darren, how do you feel about that sort of the shootouts providing potential moments for fans to celebrate when maybe the league needed that a little bit?
Yeah, no question. I mean, Jeff talked about it a ton. Again, I would say that I'm really grateful again for being part of the first, 150 Americans that were part of that league, right? I think that's what it ended up being with the internationals and all that stuff. So it's, I think it brought an excitement. It made people want to be a part of it. It was a little Americanized, but guess what? I'm an American. I like that. I like winning the table because it proves over an 11-month period that you're the best team. But there's something about playoffs, man, that are distinctly American, and the shootout is just like that. It's like there's got to be a winner. Somebody's got to win, and you always have a chance. You're always in it. The underdog always got a shot. So, again, I say bring it back. I mean, there's all these different competitions where, they're trying to bring fans in, whatever that means. But I think it'd be great to do it again.
I think we should clip the last 5 minutes of this show and send it to Commissioner Garber, and let's get this thing back.
I mean, out of all of the things that MLS tried, I mean, the clock counting down to 0.
Yeah, I don't want that.
There was a lot of stuff that obviously didn't necessarily hit, but a lot of people really love that old school style MLS shootout, man. It's a lot of fun.
I'm in.
So we got to get it back in, and now's the perfect time.
Do you go hockey style and get an extra point?
Yeah,
3 for a win,
maybe
2
that's
for
the
shootout
best.
Win, 1 for a draw.
Yeah, that's probably the best. Like they do in MLS Next Pro right now with the penalty shootout, where if you draw, you do both get the point.
Yeah.
But they have the penalty shootout to add a little extra excitement, give a team an extra point.
I'm in.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Well, I think we've decided
get on the horn, Jeff.
Yeah,
let's go.
We'll get the petition drawn up. We'll get it mailed to you guys. We'll get some official signatures, and then we'll get it around to some people in Foxborough and really get this thing rolling. So, well, guys, thank you so much. This was a ton of fun for us. I hope it was fun for you as well to, take a little bit of a walk down memory lane and reminisce a little bit, not only about the old school style MLS shootout, but MLS in 1996. We're forever grateful to both of you as being some of the early pioneers in this league and with the Revolution, because to be honest, we all get to do what we do now, working for the club because of guys like you who helped build this league.
We're standing on the shoulders
of
of giants, Jeff.
We really, really are. So many reasons to thank you. So very much appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
I'll give you a round of applause.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the MLS throwback window payments. The NFL's doing that for guys that built it in the 60s and 70s. I'm excited and looking forward to that deposit. So thank you.
Excellent.
We'll work on that too. We'll throw that in as some fine print on the petition for the old school style MLS shootout. We'll make sure that that's a clause in there as well. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks to Cathal and Jason as well, all of our producers. And thanks, of course, to our presenting sponsor, Massachusetts 250. 250 years ago, we know a lot about this here at the New England Revolution. Massachusetts started a revolution. The Massachusetts 250 campaign is commemorating our first 250 throughout the state. Plan your visit at massachusetts250.org. Revolutions start here, particularly in Foxborough. Come see what's next. We'll see you next time on the Far Post Podcast. We will continue all season to explore more of the most interesting stories of the Revolution's first 30 seasons. We'll see you next time.